In this video, I'm going to introduce you to Cassidy AI and why I think it may shock the entire industry and change how you use AI in your business. I'm going to show you what Cassidy is and some of its key features, and then I'll demonstrate a couple of the key automation scenarios it enables to help you save time and money in your business. Then if you want to check it out for yourself, use the link in the description for a free trial, and I'll send you 2 of my advanced AI assistants that you can put right into your account to get started right away. So let's head over to the website and take a look. So here we're taking a look at the Cassidy AI website. And what you'll see right away is that their focus is building AI automations and assistants trained on your business. And that's going to be the key theme that we talk about throughout all the features and demonstrations of the solution. What it really does is help you put all of your information and knowledge into a knowledge base, and then create assistants and automations that leverage all of that knowledge. So there's a couple things on the page there. There's some demonstrations and some videos you can watch and so forth. But the first thing I wanted to highlight is connecting external data to generative AI, no matter the source. So what that's all talking about is you can connect up Google Drives and Notion and all different types of data sources, upload PDF files, scrape websites, whatever you need to get the data about your business or your brand or whatever it is that you're going to want help and AI automations with. You can connect Cassidy to those data sources. They call them knowledgeable custom AI assistants. And what that means is instead of starting a generic chat with a ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your AI model of choice is, what you can actually do is create specific assistants that are based on your business knowledge. So what I mean by specific could be, there could be one for customer service, another for writing blog articles. As you'll see when we get into the demonstration, you can create your own assistants, make them talk to certain or see certain amounts of your data, and then be able to create workflows to have those assistants become even more useful. One of the parts that I think will be a little bit of a shakeup for the industry is with Cassidy, you can talk to and use any of the primary AI models that are out there. So if you like ChatGPT 4 and that's working well for you, then you can use that for your responses. If you like Claude or Gemini or any of the emerging models that are out there, what's really nice about Cassidy is it sits in front of all of those models and abstracts them and lets you choose which ones. There is also a Chrome extension for it. So once you've created these assistants and these workflows, as you're traversing the web and you're in any of your other applications, you can pull up the sidebar and then have conversations with your assistants as you go. So if you have, let's say, a writing assistant or one that's going to help you respond to emails or to customer service requests or anything like that, you can be in whatever tool that you want. And if you need to generate a reply to that, you can pull up the sidebar, go into that Chrome extension, talk to your customer support agent that you've built for yourself, trained on all of your support tickets and so forth, and then be able to generate those answers very quickly. Now, workflows are the other part that we'll talk about and that I'll show you in a few minutes. Workflows are multi-step processes that you can create inside of Cassidy, where multiple steps could mean multiple prompts, get an answer, generate a response. The next step takes that and does something else with it. So one of the examples that I'll show is we do a lot of content repurposing work in my agency. So we have transcripts from videos that we turn into all different types of content. So we have multi-step workflows to go analyze a transcript for brand voice, break it up into pieces, find interesting quotes, generate a YouTube description for it, and so on. So what you'll see is a visual designer for creating these workflows that help tie together all of your agents and all of your assistants. So here's a couple of the quick FAQs about Cassidy. So how does the knowledge base make the AI smarter? What that's doing is it's using your unique data like I talked about, and then bringing contextual understanding into the answers that the prompts are returning for you. Then I talked a little bit about the benefit of the multi-model support, so that way you can match the best model with the task that you're trying to accomplish. Down here is the models that it supports. So like I said, GPT-4, Gemini, Anthropic, and some of the bigger open source models are in there. And like I said, you can mix and match them together even within the same workflow. Now, this is a key difference, assistants versus workflows. Assistants are the things that are trained on your data, and I'll show an example of that in a minute. And then workflows are multi-step processes that you automate inside of Cassidy. In the assistant, you're going to have more of a chat conversation where you're going to ask it questions just like you would with if you're going direct to ChatGPT, except for it's going to be more knowledgeable of your business because of the data that you've trained it on. Workflows are going to be where you want to have multiple steps happen in a row. So like that transcript example I used of analyze it, break it down, turn it into a bunch of different things, you could think of that as a multi-step workflow that you can define in there. Then in terms of security, this is some of the things that you can read a little bit more about in here, but there's a whole security model over the data that you put into Cassidy. So if you say, hey, certain types of knowledge that I upload and connect it to, I'm only going to put in certain places, or want certain roles to have access to, you can do that. And then the big one is the tools that integrate with Cassidy. There's a lot of them: Google Drive, SharePoint, Notion, Slack, Zapier, LinkedIn, etc. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm a huge fan of Notion, cover that a lot on this channel as well. This was another big thing that drew me to Cassidy, because I have already been putting my entire knowledge base into Notion over the last couple of years and all of our content, and this can talk directly to that. So that's the quick overview. Now let's head over and actually take a look at the tool. So one of the things I like about Cassidy is it has a really simple user interface, but is also super powerful. So if you see in here, you really just have a couple of main sections on the left there. You have your chat history, and that's anything that you've done in here. So I can go back to any of the chats that I've had with any of my agents or any of my workflows. You can see the list of assistants that you've created. So again, we're going to do a couple of examples in here as a demonstration. Workflows is one of the big areas as well. So again, workflows are those multi-step actions that you can create. There is a template library in here that Cassidy has of a whole bunch of different workflows that have already been pre-created that you can use as starting points and copy into your account. And then of course, there's the knowledge base here, which I was talking about, which is where you can upload or connect to a bunch of different data sources and get your assistants trained on your particular knowledge. So one of the fastest ways to start is in your knowledge base. If we go in here, one of the things that Cassidy can do is it can scrape websites. So it can go read the entire website of yours or a competitor or whoever you want. So in this case, just to quickly get a general assistant up and running, I had to go scrape my entire website. So it went through, scraped 50, whatever that is, 81 pages there. And there's some different things you can control in here: whole domain, subdomain, specific pages, different patterns, and so forth. And then you can see down here some of the things that it brings in. So right off the bat, I'll show you a quick demonstration of how it's already more powerful than ChatGPT by itself, because I can basically go in and say, I want to have a chat with my assistant here. But before I do that, let's ask ChatGPT something that I know specifically about my business. So we'll ask it, what is the expert business system all about? And that's basically one of our methodologies. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing over here. Get literally the same prompt. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and ask my general assistant the same question. Okay, so I'm going to stop ChatGPT now, because as you can see, this is going down a generic path. An expert system, artificial intelligence, blah, blah, blah. This is the traditional definition of that. This has nothing to do with my particular business or methodology there. Okay, now over here in my actual assistant inside of Cassidy, the answer is much more relevant. So comprehensive approach offered by my agency, helps to streamline business functions, blah, 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 standard operating procedures, all the different things you can see in there. So in this particular case, the assistant being trained on my data returned a much more relevant result. Okay, pretty basic example, but it shows you just automatically how powerful it is to have your assistants connected up to your data and how easy that is. All I had to do was scrape my website. I didn't even have to connect it to Notion or any of my other stuff yet. And I'm already getting answers and things like that that are a lot more relevant. So let's take that one step further though. Since it knows a little bit more about my business, now I can have it generate some stuff that's going to be useful to me. Maybe an example is somebody might ask, why should I choose you? Or why would that help me as an online business owner? So we'll let that play out there. Okay, so I like that. Notice a couple of different things here that are really interesting. So it is pulling out the stuff. Now, obviously, I know my own content, so I know this is relevant and accurate. However, it does give you these little footnotes here where it's going to take you right back to the place where it was getting some of that information from. So you can see some different footnotes in here and things like that. You can see which pages of the website and which of the data sources that it got that information from. So it didn't just go scrape it from one page. It got it from this page, which is one of our landing pages. It got some of this information from the About page on our website and a few other things down here. So you can see where the information is coming from. So that's helpful when you want to train the model further, or maybe you see something that's not quite accurate anymore, and then you click on that footnote, and then you can see, oh, that's where it came from. That's an old version of a document, or my database needs to be updated, or whatever it is. So you also see the sourcing of the information here, which is pretty useful as well. So that's a simple example of an assistant, okay? So again, the way Cassidy defines that is this is going to be a chat-based interface that is connected to and trained on data sources that you connect to the system. Now, as you can see here, this is under a shared data source. You can have private ones. Maybe there's specific stuff like for the executive tier of your business, and then you want those assistants to be private because it's going to be trained on maybe their email conversations, who knows what. There's just different ways that you can use the security model in here. In general, I'm looking at creating shared assistants to enable my team to do more things more quickly, but there's certainly scenarios where you may want to have the private assistants as well. Now, the process of creating an assistant is pretty simple. There is some starting points that are in here. Cassidy already has a few of these built in, like a marketing assistant or a legal assistant. The main differences here are going to be the portions of your total knowledge base that you configure the assistants to talk to. That's one way that they get narrowed down a little bit. So let's go add one in here. So I like this because we do a lot of content editing and repurposing. So we'll take a look. So in here, one of the other nice things about the way Cassidy is set up is you don't have to necessarily create a whole lot of stuff from scratch. So if you answer a couple of these questions here, it's going to go through and basically create an assistant for you based on the answers to these questions. So in here, we'll just fill a couple of these out and see what we get back. Okay, and then we'll just skip ahead. So you only have to answer what you want. Now, this is the key. Is this a question and answer assistant? So the choice here is whether every time you submit a question or a task for the assistant to do, is it going to go search the knowledge base and generate off of that? Or do you want to just tell it to do that at specific times? So off is the default, but then what happens is, as you'll see, when we create the prompts, we can always refer back to portions of the knowledge base. Okay, now before we go into it, we can edit the assistant settings. So in here, you can give it a name, a description for it, whether it's private or not, which model it's going to use. So this is the first example of where we can select any of the models that are out here. You can come in and switch your assistant to either the most effective model, the cheapest model, whatever your case may be. With Cassidy, what's interesting about Cassidy is you don't have to put your API keys in. The way their pricing model works is you're paying for a certain amount of credits, and those credits can be used across any of the foundational models here. So that's why I don't have a specific key for Azure GPT-4 or most of these other ones, but I can use any of these models because it's going through my Cassidy account, which does have some credits, and then off into the model we go. Now down here are the instructions. Now again, these are just general instructions because this is a chat-based assistant. This isn't a workflow. We'll see workflows in a minute. So this is going to be where we're going to basically ask questions of it. Now, another thing that you can do is you can upload your brand voice into here so that the responses match the voice and the tone and the style that you use in your writing or your business's brand guide. So actually, I'll show you a workflow in a minute that actually creates a brand voice based on a content sample that you can then paste into here. And then there's this setting of whether it's a QA assistant. And then down here, you can decide whether it's going to be able to search all of the knowledge base or not. So if you want to enable that Q&A scenario, you can turn this on. And then you can come down here and select which specific parts of the knowledge base you want, or the entire knowledge base. So again, an example there of where you may want to narrow it down. If you were creating a customer service assistant, then you would probably only want to have it trained on your customer's support system. So whether it's Zendesk or whatever you use, that you would connect to it. That way you're getting definitive answers to the questions versus maybe a whole bunch of stuff across an entire company where some of the information may be conflicting or something like that. So if it's something where you know that the answers lie specifically in a portion of your knowledge base, then I would narrow it up and just select that part. But if you have a more generalized type of assistant that maybe is on the front end of your website that's going to answer a bunch of questions for people, then you might want a wider scope of what it's able to see and use as the source of its data. Okay, so once that's done or any changes, you can open it in chat, and then now you can have a chat with your particular assistant. Now, in this case, there's not going to be too much there because, yeah, I didn't connect it to too many other things, but it is an example there. So just as an example, I'll say, yeah, I'll ask it like, what is a good social media strategy for a online course creator? Okay, so this one's a pretty interesting response here. So some of the initial stuff is coming from some of my blog post articles. It did actually find some things that are like lead magnets that I've had and resources here. So we had a digital business revenue planner, we had a course planner and stuff like that. So again, it has gone back and done much more contextual stuff than what, let's say, ChatGPT would do. The idea here is this is the assistant model. Again, this is still the chat-based interface, but you can see the different sources that it's referencing down here from even just that limited amount of training data that I've given it so far. Okay, so we're going to take a quick look at workflows now. So we're going to go into one. This was one of the templates, and then I'll show you some of my custom ones. So one of the templates inside of Cassidy was blog post to social media post conversion. So if we go take a look at this, we click into it, and if we click edit workflow, this is where you start to see some additional superpowers come in. So you can see we've got a visual designer here, and it uses what's called prompt chaining. So these are multiple prompts chained together. As you'll see, it could be different models, different outputs, and so forth. So in here, there's a manual trigger, which is give it a blog post URL. And what it's going to do then is Cassidy is going to go scrape that content. It's going to go look at it, read it. The next instruction is create a concise summary. And you can see there's a little bit more of the prompt here. But here's the important part. It's telling you, here's the content to summarize, and that is the previous step. So you've got this little thing down here where you can just type the hashtag, and then you can look at previous responses, okay? So you can say, hey, refer to the content that you just scraped, and that's the second step of it. Then it says, okay, now it wants to take the blog post and turn it into an Instagram post. And so down here, it's saying, here's the blog content. It's referring back to that. And then here's the link to the blog in case it needs to go get information or use a link to it. So now we're 3 or 4 prompts deep into this thing. It's the same for Facebook. You can see down here, it switches over to Claude 2 model, generate a Twitter post. And then again, it's referring back to previous steps in there. So if you just pause and think about that for a second, that's where there's a lot of power. Where people go wrong with prompting these days is they're trying to feed in one really long prompt to make ChatGPT do some incredible output, and it just doesn't work very well. But if you break it into individual steps, then you can get some pretty amazing results out of it. This is an example here, and you can see that it comes down and it's generated all this work. Then at the end, it says, okay, assemble these back together. So it's basically saying, hey, now do final drafts of all of those things, and then remove some extraneous information, and so on and so forth. So it's given it some instructions on output. So that's an example of a multi-step workflow. And so let's take a look at what that looks like when we run it. All right, so I'm just going to paste in one of my blog posts. So you can see over here, it was this one, how to create a revenue generating content strategy. Fairly long blog post, yes, maybe 2,500 words or something like that. So decent amount of content in there. So we're pasting it into Cassidy, and we'll have it go. So it scraped the blog content. Now it's creating the summary. Now what's nice is as it's going, you actually can expand these things out so you can see generally what it has here. So I can be taking a look at this while it's running the rest of the steps. So we'll take a look at that. Yeah, pretty decent summary. Now, something in here that I would tweak is depending on what this is going to be used for, obviously it's written in the third person. So that's a simple change to the prompts. If you want to have it written in the first person or active voice or whatever you want that to be, that's a pretty simple thing where you just change it in the workflow, and then it's going to take effect in the following steps. Okay, so then as you see, it's going down through each of those steps. So it's generating an Instagram post, gives you a little bit of a suggestion and so forth. Turn your content into dollars. Okay, Facebook post. Now, the reason this is interesting is because these posts are somewhat tailored to the different social networks. So you'll see the tone and style is a little bit different in here. So the Facebook and Instagram one's a little bit more personable. Yeah, the LinkedIn one will probably be a little bit more business, right? And there's different formats here. And then finally, we can come down and see what the final drafts were and so forth. So this pulls it back into one thing, so I could easily copy and paste this out. And that's one other nice little usability feature is they do have this copy and paste button here. So I can just go grab that and then do whatever I want with that data. Okay. So this one I think was an interesting example of a multi-step workflow, multiple foundational models used in it, and generating some interesting output. Now, you can make it even more robust by using the bulk run feature here. So with this feature, what you can do is you can basically have a CSV file of all of the blog posts that I've written, upload that, and then have it go run that workflow that we just did on all 100 of my blog posts, which would then generate out posts for Facebook, Instagram, etc. So 100 blog posts in, 500 posts will be coming out because it's going to summarize it and do posts for each of the social networks. And just with that step, you've got content to post for a year if you have that in there. So these are just some of the different steps, and this would show basically what step it's on as each run is going there. So bulk runs are another really powerful feature of Cassidy that I've just started scratching the surface on. One thing that I forgot to mention is, so when we do look in the workflows, I forgot to click in here, but there's a lot of different actions you can add into your workflows. So up here are some of the AI actions, generating text. This one is where you can tell it to communicate with one of your agents and thus tap into your knowledge base. You can have it summarize or extract information. It can go out and search the internet, so that's really interesting there. It can search your knowledge base. We saw an example of the scraping. That's how it got my blog post in there. And there's some other actions in here. There's some things specifically for LinkedIn it can do, and then Slack. This is where you can do some things related to Zendesk. And then here, this is really interesting, is you can connect to Zapier and do a Zapier action. Yeah, let's say after the blog post is generated, instead of copying and pasting it over into Notion, I could have it go right from here to Zapier and into Notion, or straight over to WordPress and get it published on a blog or something like that. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with these workflows, which aren't just having to have a human copy and paste information from all over the place. You can have it connect through Zapier and then have that go out and do a whole bunch of different things with the information as well. Then there's also the inverse. So you can trigger Cassidy workflows from Zapier. So if you have some other business process that's coming up with some things and then you want one of your assistants to do something with that data, then you can trigger from Zapier into Cassidy and have it go do some things. Last thing I want to tease for a future video is the ability to connect new things into your knowledge base. Now, this is one that I'm really excited about, and probably the number one reason why I'm interested in Cassidy versus other things that are out there is this ability to really connect into knowledge. One of the things I focus on quite a bit is Notion. We've built our entire business around it. You'll see in a second. So for the last year and change, every single thing that I've written or created or that we've done in our business is in a huge content database inside of Notion. And so in a follow-up video to this one, I'm going to do a deep dive on importing that data from Notion. And the best thing is it's not just an import, it also can be a synchronization. So as more things get added into Notion, more knowledge is going to build up here in my knowledge base. And then all of those responses and outputs are just going to get more and more relevant as more and more of my information is in there. And that's exactly what you can do with your business. Now, if you're not on Notion, there's a bunch of other things. There's Slack, SharePoint, Confluence, a bunch of different things you can do there. You can upload any document, so PDFs and things like that. So if you have it in text anywhere, basically you can get it into here. And then if you want it to be something that is connected, Cassidy is adding more and more systems over time. Like they also have some Zendesk and other integrations in here. And then there's also some Zapier things you can do there. So to close out this quick overview, let's head over back to the website again, and then we'll take a look at the pricing model. Now, like I said, this is where it gets interesting because tool vendors are making choices at this point. Some of them are providing functionality, but then you have to provide your own API keys to OpenAI or Claude or whatever, and then all of that billing happens between you and whichever API keys you're using. What I like about Cassidy is they're a layer in between. And so I'm basically buying credits here. So like right now I have, let's say, the $49 plan. So I get 10,000 Cassidy credits in a month. And what that means is I can use them against any of the AI models. All of my assistants, all of my workflows can be mix and match, and I don't have to go screw around with API keys or tracking other places and all of that. I can do it right in here. So as an example, I can go through that and I can look at like the runs that we did today, And I can see that the workflow run earlier took 124 credits, right? Mainly because these are analyzing larger amounts of data. So some of these transcripts and things like that I've been doing, there are 5,000, 10,000 words, hour and a half long transcripts and so forth. So those require a little bit more credits. Here, where I was just generating some quotes and stuff like that, it's less. If I go into this one, you can see this was a much longer set of text. It had to use one of the bigger models and so forth. So there is some optimization you can do for the shorter stuff. You could use GPT 3.5 or cheaper models and so forth. But again, what I like about it is that it's all in one place. And then I can track this across everybody in my company that's using it. And then we can also see, are we just doing something weird and it's consuming a lot of credits or something like that, versus have to go log in all these different places and look at API key usage and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's what I wanted to point out there. There's obviously other plans as you go up in terms of credits. And so that is the way that works. So again, if you're interested in Cassidy, check out the description below the video. Like I said, I'm moving a ton of stuff into this as we speak. I'm really excited about this one. And again, if you sign up with the link that I have below, you'll get a free trial. You get a couple thousand free credits there. And then I'll also give you some of the advanced AI agents that we're working on so that you can build them right into your account and get started. And so with that, keep an eye on this channel because we have queued up a couple of more advanced demonstrations and we're going to go through some builds, some integrations, how to get more data in there. We're going to show you how to create a whole team of AI assistants and workflows inside of Cassidy to do all kinds of different interesting things for your business. So make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you see those videos as they come out in the coming days, and then hit the bell notification so that you get a notice when they come out and you don't miss them. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.